All right. Hello and welcome to a special pop-up comic creator mastermind session. I am Tyler James, host of ComixLaunch, and I have a good broadcast for you all today. We're going to have some fun tonight. So what are we doing? What's this all about? Let me tell you. And what is a mastermind? This is a concept that has been around for well over 100 years. It probably dates back to the King Arthur Knights of the Round Table. So even longer than that. But a mastermind is a group that offers a combination of brainstorming, education, peer accountability, and support in a group setting. And these are designed usually to sharpen business, creative, or personal skills. And you can have masterminds in any area of the world. And my particular interest is in comics and publishing and crowdfunding. And so we have a mastermind specifically focused on issues related to creators who are also into that kind of thing. The goals for mastermind groups are to help you and your fellow mastermind members achieve success. Sort of rising tide raises all boats, and that we can also get farther when we support one another. And so that's what a mastermind group is. A pop-up mastermind group is a special kind of mastermind. It's a one-time event. It is an event where creators that are participating may not know each other well. And even though this is the first time this particular group has ever been assembled, it still can be highly valuable and a lot of fun. And I know we're going to have some fun tonight. So now that's what's going on tonight. We're doing a pop-up mastermind. Also, over the next month, you're going to be hearing a lot about the ComixLaunch Mastermind on my podcast and me talking about stuff online. And the ComixLaunch Mastermind is a special group that I run that is a group that meets on a consistent basis. It's been running for several years now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but if you go to comixlaunch.com/mastermind, you can get more details, get on our interest list, because we will be re-enrolling and opening up our group we only do it twice a year where we open up to new members, but that will be going down in the month of June. So comixlaunch.com/mastermind for more on that. And running comic creator mastermind groups is probably the most rewarding thing I do. The opportunity to interact with real creators, making real projects, facing real obstacles, and being able to have the creators in that group support one another, to work through them, and just to see the progress that happens when they do is it's an awesome thing to be able to facilitate. And so I'm hoping that everyone tuning in tonight and everyone participating gets just a taste of what that whole experience is like, and also helps move their projects forward. Now, I will be doing a live info session to learn more about the ComixLaunch Mastermind on June 13th, 2023 at 3 p.m. So again, if you go to the mastermind site, comixlaunch.com/mastermind, you can get on the interest list and we'll get an invitation to that. And you can find out more details about that particular mastermind. So that's that piece of this. But let's talk about what we're going to be doing tonight, because in tonight's roundtable, one thing that's kind of cool about what we're doing tonight is that we have 5 creators who are going to be here, and they're going to be bringing real issues to the table, and they're going to get supported by other creators. And so in our roundtable of creators that are with me backstage here, we have an awesome crew joining us, who is a writer, Chris Brimmage, who is a comics and prose writer and marketer, Jeff Lorentz, who is a comic artist, Don Handfield, who is a film writer and producer and also a comic writer, and James Mascia, who is a comic and prose writer. Now, one of the interesting things about this group is that, well, the interesting thing is not that it's facilitated by me, Tyler James, but that's who's facilitating it. I'm the publisher of ComixTribe and the founder of ComixLaunch, if you don't know me. But one of the interesting things about this group is that every creator that's participating tonight is both a part of the broader ComixLaunch Pro community, which I've been running for several years now. And these are creators that all have projects that are either live or live now or will be live over the next month. And so in addition to meeting some really great creators, tackling some tough issues, you're also going to get exposed to some really cool Kickstarter projects that are live right now that you can go back and support. And so we'll give every creator who's going to open up and sit on the hot seat and share an issue and really dive deep on that with us tonight. We'll give them all an opportunity just to plug their projects so that you can learn about some more cool projects going on. All right. So hope that sounds good to you all. What are these hot seats that I'm talking about? This is the bulk of the mastermind experience is built around creator issues. And so I have a special way that I do it when I run hot seats. And the hot seats are usually divided into 4 sections. At the beginning of the hot seat, I ask each creator to present their issue or topic and the current challenge that's related to the issue that they want to talk about. And so the creator will bring this topic to the group. The next step will be discussing and clarifying. So this is where I will open up to the group to ask and give members of the Mastermind Roundtable the opportunity to ask a probing question of the creator, to dive a little bit deeper. Often there's a tendency to want to like jump in and just start giving suggestions or tips, but usually that's not as helpful if we don't really get to the root of the issue or dive a little bit deeper. And so I always try to encourage us to ask some questions before we move on. The next step is to solve. And this is where we'll ask the creator who brings the issue just to step back a little bit and do some listening while we tap into the collective brain power of the group and brainstorm potential ideas, solutions, etc. And then we will wrap with a commitment where we ask the creator who brought the issue to share what ideas resonated with them and what, if any, new actions he or she would be willing to take or commit to be doing as a result of that. So that's how we run the hot seats, and you'll get the flavor of this pretty easily. All right. Also, at the end of every session, I'm going to ask each creator just to share what was their top takeaway or insight that they got from participating from tonight's session. Sometimes it'll be a breakthrough for their own topic. Sometimes it'll be something that came up in another discussion. And that's what's fun about these groups, is that often you can get a lot out of participating in a mastermind session, not just from having your own issues tackled, but by hearing about things that other creators are going through. And so we will also give creators, again, the opportunity to share where you can follow up with them and follow their work going forward. All right. So I also want to call out an important group that is also here, and that's everyone that's watching this live, or the more people who will check out the replay. I would love to invite everyone that's watching live just to help us get into the algorithm and get out there so that we can reach more creators, because we're going to be diving into 5 topics that I guarantee you every single creator out there, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 of these that you are going to really resonate with and really going to want to get some good answers to. So please share, please comment. If everyone could just, if you're watching, leave a comment, let us know where you're watching us from, or just, shout out something that you're working on. And then I also want to encourage you as we go is to feel free to add your insights in the comments wherever you're watching this. You may have some additional thoughts or advice or experience that can add a lot to the conversation. I'm going to be staying locked in and focused on what's going on with the creators who we have here, but please participate. And these conversations can sometimes continue on into the weeks as this replay gets out into the algorithm, et cetera. So whether you're watching us on YouTube, let us know where you're watching us from. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, we would love to see that in the chat, and then please share so it gets out into more feeds. All right. We really do appreciate you all tuning in. All right, let's get the hot seats rolling with our first creator. And so to kick us off, I want to highlight Scott Harris King, who is a professional writer. Scott has been creating comics since 2019. He's probably best known for the crowdfunded series, The Crime Busters. He's also done the series Cthulhu versus Uncle Sam. And he is live on Kickstarter right now with his 10th Kickstarter project. So congrats on that, Scott. Scott, what can you tell us about your new series, which is called Quest? Oh, and make sure you unmute. I made everyone mute, and so yeah, Scott, what can you tell us about your new series, Quest?
Well, Quest is an epic fantasy, and it's got all the stuff that I love about epic fantasies. It's got a ragtag party of adventurers that are thrown together by fate and charged with an impossible quest to save their world. It's sort of my love letter to fantasy in general, but also specifically to Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games. And so, like, one of the most popular versions that I have is a special edition called the RPG Tabletop Edition, which you're just coming to here, which not only has the variant cover that looks like an old D&D module, but there's actually bonus pages only in that edition of gaming materials. So it's got rules for the classes and the monsters, and it's got a little mini module. So if you're into role-playing games, you can actually play the story from the comic in your own home game. And people have really liked that. That's been by far the biggest reward that backers have chosen. So people seem to be really responding to that.
Yeah, that's really cool, Scott. I like the combination RPG and comic. Awesome. All right, so you have brought us a cool topic for its discussion, and I think this is definitely something that I have thought a lot about. But can you sort of share what's on your mind related to your topic today?
Yeah. So my first few Kickstarters, my first few issues of Crime Busters, the first comics I did everything myself. I wrote them, I drew them, lettering, every single thing. As I've been sort of trying to put things out faster and ramp up production, I've been hiring other artists. I've been focusing on my writing. And so I went from doing one or possibly two Kickstarters a year to now this is my sixth Kickstarter in the last year. And I need to be delegating more things, but one thing that I'm struggling with is putting a value on my time. I know in my regular day job, which is as a writer, like how much my time is worth. I can put like a sort of price value on it. But when it comes to my comics, I don't know. For instance, just an example, still do the lettering myself, and the lettering I do it's okay. It's pretty good. But would it be worth it for me to spend $450 on a letterer to do that and take it off my plate so I would have the time to focus on other things? It's very difficult for me to put a value on my time when it comes to the comic books. And I'm just not really sure how to decide like where to spend the money and how much my time is valuable.
Yeah. Okay, great topic, and definitely something that I can resonate with, and I know that is a struggle. Let's who has a clarifying question for Scott? Anyone want to dive deeper on here or ask? Yeah, Chris.
I guess I'd just start with what's like the opportunity cost of your time. So like, what are you not doing with your time that you could do if you hired somebody else to do this for you? So if somebody was doing the lettering or something like that, what would you be doing with your time to move the business forward?
Well, since I'm still doing most things, it would free me up to, for instance, just as an example, I have an artist that was just finished working on the third issue of Quests. So he's ahead of me. And when he was done with issue 2 and ready to start issue 3, I had not written a single word of the script for issue 3. And so I had to spend a whole weekend doing the entire script from scratch. And that's something where if I had had the time during the week, I could have gotten ahead on the writing. And that's just one example. But, I am a professional writer. Writing is what I'm best at. And so I feel like if I'm spending my time on other things, then it's probably more valuable for me to get ahead on the scripts and be fine tuning the writing to make sure the story is as good as possible.
Great. Other questions for Scott? Yeah, Don, go ahead.
What's your passion, man? What do you want to be spending your time doing? Like, what's the most important thing for you to be doing that kind of fulfills you?
Well, the writing, I also really enjoy. I do enjoy drawing, but at this point, what I really like is doing the covers. I like doing homage covers and variant covers from books. And, you know, those covers can take me a while, you know, probably 10 hours or more for one cover. Those are what I really like to do is to work on the stories, create, create new stories, and draw the covers if I'm going to draw.
Yeah, Chris.
Out of all of the things on your plate that you're doing, what is sort of like the highest effort thing that you also think might be the lowest cost thing to outsource? Just like an inverse scale of what versus what is high effort versus lowest cost.
I think it's probably the lettering. I mean, lettering doesn't take me that long for the actual like word balloons and things, but getting the sound effects, I'm not great with using the programs that I use to manipulate the like sound effects. And so those actually take me longer than the dialogues. I would say a typical page for me is going to take me at least a half hour or more to do the lettering. So on a book like Quest, which is 24 pages, I'm looking at, you know, probably 12 to 15 hours of time to letter it, which doesn't sound like that much, except, you know, I'm kind of working like with my regular job, I'm only working like maybe 2 or 3 hours a day on the comics. So if I have to do a 15-hour lettering job, it's basically a whole week of comic, you know, time that I'm going to have to spend on it.
Yeah. So one thing, Scott, that you said, that you have an idea of how much your time is worth in your day job, but you're not sure how to calculate that for your creative pursuits, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And I guess, how did you come to understand what your time is worth for the day job writing stuff that you do, or everything that goes into that?
Well, I've had the same. I'm a freelancer, but I've had the same job with the same company doing the same work for almost 8 years. And so I have a pretty good idea how long it's going to take me to do a job versus, you know, how much they're paying me. So I kind of know like what my hourly rate would be if it was hourly. But with the comics, you know, I can't really do that, because if I was calculating the amount of money I'm making for my comics, I would be paying myself something like, you know, minus $30 an hour. So that doesn't really, I'm not really sure how to do that.
Right. Okay. Any other questions before we get into some ideas for Scott here? All right. I actually want to start maybe with Don. I know you're someone that has worn a lot of hats and has done a lot of collaborations. How do you go about deciding what you should be doing and when you could be doing something? I also know that you're a writer, but you also do bring on other writers to work on projects that you're working on. So you have an outsourcing background or a collaboration out of background. What's your approach to this? Or what thoughts do you have for Scott?
Well, look, I mean, I do a lot of different stuff, and sometimes I think I need to do what Scott's doing and be like, well, where should I be? Where's my time really valuable? Because I spent the last 3 days prototyping an AR app, you know, for something I'm releasing, which is super important to me. I'm taking a class at MIT to learn more about XR and VR, so it's part of the classwork. It's part of an app I'm developing. I like to learn it because then if I do hire someone better than me, I know the language and how to speak to them and what to say. I'm not always good at like, should I be spending my time on this? And I think it's a great question. And I'm really glad that you asked it, Scott, because it makes me think about for myself. I would say looking at you, I would say, man, like your passion is in doing covers, your passion is in writing, then it's really kind of a simple equation for me. It's like lettering is the least expensive thing we pay for. It sounds like it takes you a lot of time. I would certainly outsource that. It's also the thing where, you know, there's great letterers out there that does make a difference. But if you have a taste for it and a letterer you work with that you trust their work, it's pretty straightforward. As far as the interior art, you know, I'm not an artist, so I don't have that issue. But I do love the collaboration process with artists where I can do my writing and have an artist working on one book and another artist working on one book. And, you know, you always have that book where you get those pages where it's just perfect and they're elevating what you wrote 10 times. That's always the joy as well. I think your homage covers are really cool, man. I would spend more time on that and outsource as much as you can afford. I mean, you know, I know it comes down to cost at the end in that calculation, but in that case, I would just go with your gut, man. What do you get the most joy out of doing? And then if you get the most joy out of doing covers and it pays you negative $30 an hour, that's okay. You know, I think that's where you should put your time. You know.
I'm going to jump over to James. James, you have a tremendous output, and it seems like it's only been going up more. But I know that does not mean you are doing literally everything.
No, I'm actually, I mean, it feels like I'm doing more, but when you look at a per project basis, I'm actually doing less, which is, you know, good, I guess. Yeah, like
but as,
we don't.
But as someone that has also had the situations where, like, you know, we know with comics the margins aren't always great, and the surety of the cost it's going to take to hire someone to do something compared to the uncertainty of what the end revenue might be. Like, how did you get around that issue, which seems to be something that Scott's sort of playing with a little here?
Well, like we don't do, or I should say, I don't do the fulfillment anymore, which is great because the fulfillment took me personally. It would take me weeks to get all of the things like packed up and sent out and brought down to the, you know, post office or UPS or whatever. And it was just a, you know, a logistical nightmare. And then when we started publishing or printing rather with Comic Impressions, and they were doing the fulfillment at the time for us, like it wasn't actually costing that much more than it was for me to do it myself. So it was like a couple extra $100 for them to do it, and I'm like, by all means, go and do it. The same thing with the lettering. Like, you know, I used to do the lettering on all the books, and yes, it would take me, you know, a few hours, you know, to letter the entire book. And then, you know, we found, you know, some people that would do it for like $15, $20 a page. And, you know, the lettering looks, frankly, better than I can do it. You know, I'm looking to get, you know, the quality product out there as well. So, you know, if it's going to look better than I can do it, then I'm going to have somebody else do it also.
I'm curious.
But yeah, as far as, go ahead.
I'm just curious, James, when you think about and compare, let's say, the last, year where you let go of fulfillment and you let go of lettering versus back when you were lettering everything and fulfilling everything, was there any difference in the revenue that you were doing in terms of, like, in a year of comic sales?
I'm going to say maybe a little less on a per project basis, but not where I'm missing it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I'm not missing the extra that I'm throwing out to, you know, these places. Right.
And Jeff, I'm curious, what thoughts might you have for Scott on this as someone that does a lot of, I think you're doing most of of the work on your projects right now, but
Yeah, I can definitely relate to Scott, because I do everything myself for my books. So you definitely made me kind of consider whether I should be hiring out a letterer or something like that. It's definitely takes a lot more time. Like you said, only an hour for each page, right? But then all that time adds up, especially with that day job.
yeah. Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it comes down to like just really thinking about lowest risk versus highest reward. And ultimately, the thing that you've mentioned a few times has been the lettering. So I think maybe you were already thinking it, but I think the lettering is the thing that I would start with, partially because as you pick up a book and open it up and read it, like it's the biggest thing that you don't think about that can turn an audience off really fast, and it could be the difference between returning backers to check out your future projects versus not. And it's probably the least cost or the least expensive part of putting a book together, and has the potentially one of the higher rewards. And so that's where I would be thinking about starting. And then if it's concerning to if the revenue generation, or it's concerning to you to like pay out of pocket for something like that, I'd start also evaluating just how much your weekends are worth. Because you mentioned, you spent a whole weekend lettering, you get 52 of those a year. Is it worth it to you to trade an entire weekend that you'll never get back for something like hiring somebody out to do the lettering for you, so then you have more time to do other things? So
Yeah, that opportunity cost doesn't just have to be with your creative business. It can also be with the energy that you have and other things. I want to recommend a book resource to check out, Scott, especially as you're thinking of like, how do I scale this up a little bit more as a business? The book is called Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. And one of the central concepts of this book is the importance of like the business owner, runner, architect, identifying what his or her queen bee role is, which is basically like the main thing that absolutely needs to be done in order for this business machine to keep going. And that's where that person needs to be spending the most amount of time. And it sounds like, just from our quick discussion, you mentioned, because you were doing these other things, you became the bottleneck in keeping the next issue rolling because the script wasn't ready to go. And so it sounds like the queen bee role for you in your comic business is really in that writing role. So the gradual stripping away of everything that is not that is ultimately how you scale up. And there's an exercise that you can still do, even if the business isn't profitable right now. Most businesses like get profitable on paper before they get profitable in real life, right? Like you have to have a like you have to be able to work out how you could get there, and sketch that out and dream that out, because it's not just going to happen. And one thing that I know is, like, if I have a revenue goal of $1 million, right, in a year, I know that I can't spend big chunks of hours on tasks that are $10 an hour tasks. Like there's not like I can't spend 20 hours a week doing packing and shipping and lettering and color flats and custom like low level customer service stuff, and expect that at the end of the year to ever add up to close to that revenue goal. Now, it doesn't have to be $1 million. You could even you could even do $10,000, but it's $10,000. But this is the amount of time I have in a year to put towards this. Well, what does that come out to be? And I would encourage you to just play with that a little bit, just to see it, and just try to get like hey, anything that I don't absolutely love and doesn't light me up, and I also can't do at a high level, or I don't want to get better at it through practice. If it's below a certain dollar amount that is my cutoff, then I just let that go and trust that it's going to work out. That's kind of served me well in the past, even though sometimes I'll bring back stuff and sometimes I kind of like lettering too sometimes, but I almost treat that as like my hobby stuff, but I wouldn't do that as part of like my core business activity, knowing that it's not a great use of my core business time. Any final thoughts for Scott? All right, cool. I want to just before we move on, Scott, just what was valuable here, and how are you thinking about approaching like this lettering decision?
I think, I think the most valuable is kind of what you were just saying about, if I want to grow my business to a certain point, which I do, I can't be spending my time on the things that are the cheapest. Like I, as you say, like I can't be doing the $10 an hour thing when I need to be doing the higher level thing. So there's a couple things I'll need to figure out in my workflow in terms of, I like to do the lettering in part because it allows me to rewrite it as I'm, fitting things in, but that's something that I know I can do. I can change my workflow to do that with the art before I send it to a letterer. So I think once I figure that part of that process out, that'll help me move forward. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say about this is sometimes it's not an all or nothing decision that we can make. Like, even if you didn't go and hire a professional letterer to just take it 100% off your table, hiring a overseas virtual assistant that had access to Illustrator and could literally just, you train them to take your script, open up your thing and place like your words in a document, like, and do all that stuff and you come in then when all your pages are already set up and you come in and do that last like balloon shaping or other part, like that could shave literally, the time it takes you to do it by 50% or more for a very, very low out of pocket cost. And so, I definitely encourage you to think about letting go of a few things so that you can continue to build up. But yeah, thanks for getting us started here, Scott.
Thank you. Thanks for all the advice.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to continue to move on. I want to thank some of the folks that are watching us live here. We got James Burton, JB in the house watching us over on YouTube. Tony Cade is also watching us on YouTube. We have Chris in the house, Matt Campbell, Espresso Detective is representing. So I want to thank everyone who is tuning in and watching us. Again, keep commenting, keep sharing so that we get out into the feed and can help more creators. We are about to bring on our next hot seat and get our next guest going. And so up next is Chris Brimmage. Chris is also a current member of the ComixLaunch Mastermind, and he always brings his A game to these hot seats. So we really appreciate Chris being here as well. Chris is a former educator, he's a marketer, and he's the author of the comedic sci-fi and noir urban fantasy. His latest, and he's probably best known for the Mandrill PI series, which is both comics and prose. And he also has written the Multiverse Askew trilogy. Chris, you have a Mandrill PI launch that is live on Kickstarter now. What can you tell us about Mandrill PI and the Kickstarter you've got rocking right now?
Sure. So who stops cartoons when they turn criminal? Mandrill PI. That's who. So Mandrill PI is a noir urban fantasy set in a cartoon world where the protagonist is an anthropomorphic mandrill who investigates occult and supernatural and paranormal mysteries. It's kind of like Hellboy meets Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And as you mentioned, Tyler, I serialize this property across both comics and prose. And so generally my release strategy is 2 comics, and then I'll release a novel, and then 2 comics, and then release a novel, each of them individual Kickstarters. And one of the cool things about the strategy that I've been implementing with the novel releases, which is what this current Kickstarter is I kind of take the variant cover idea that you see in comics and apply it to novels. And so I've got 2 covers for this novel, and then I have my comic book artist Carlos Trigo come in and do an exclusive print for each of the novel campaigns. And so one of the reward tiers has a metal version of the print he did for this one, and then I am printing the print from the last campaign, the last novel campaign, in metal as well for one of the other tiers. But overall, it's just a super fun property to write in, because you take the chaotic world of cartoons and you mix it with noir urban fantasy. So I like to think of it as my love letter to 80s and 90s cartoons and hard-boiled detective stories.
Yeah, awesome, Chris. And Chris is a great example of how both the publishing side and the prose side of Kickstarter is working, and the comics side is they're both sort of growing in success and can actually. So even though some people that read comics don't read prose and vice versa, well, it's not entirely true, but also it can expand his IP into people in the way that they want to consume it. So very cool to see you doing that successfully, Chris. So you have a topic related to something that I know is the bane of many creators' existence, the dead zone. What's on your mind regarding the Kickstarter dead zone?
Yeah, so this launch is my longest launch to date. So normally I try to stick them around 21 days. I had a lot of day job things coming up that I needed to extend this particular launch to about 31. So it ends on June 17th. And I've been hearing from a lot of other creators, and I feel like I'm experiencing it here this time as well, that the dead zone it just started way earlier, it feels like, than it has on other projects that I've launched. And then the concerning thing is, with this project running 31 days instead of 20, or 32 days, I guess, instead of 21, that dead zone lasting longer means that instead of the continuous upward trajectory you would get potentially in the past, it feels like it might be a bit more of a slog this time. And so what I'm really hoping for is to discuss some strategies for dealing with that longer dead zone and how to make it feel less like a dead zone.
Awesome. All right. Kickstarter dead zone strategies, the dynamic of it hitting earlier, hitting harder, lasting longer for creators that have been launching lately, and how do you get through it? Anyone have any clarification questions for Chris? I guess I would just start for the audiences that haven't launched, the people that are watching that haven't launched Kickstarter. Like, can you define, what's your definition of the Kickstarter dead zone, and how do you know you're in it, Chris?
Yeah, so when you launch a Kickstarter, like first day, in my previous experience, first really 3 days, you sort of get a super fast upward trajectory. When you look on your Kickstarter dashboard, which is a tool you get behind the scenes when you're running a Kickstarter, you can see a graph of how quickly you're funding, and you can see how many pledges are coming in basically by day and by hour. And what you'll normally see at the beginning of the campaign is, like rocket ship style upward trajectory, and then at the end of the campaign, upward trajectory. But then in the middle, it can remain relatively flat. And so in the past, the beginning of it has been and then flat, but then now it just seems like it's a much shorter time window in which the pledges and backers sort of flatten out. So I kind of define it as when you get to those days when you only get maybe one or so backer a day, or some people start canceling pledges, so then it almost becomes a negative day. And I just realized as I described that I was using a lot of hand motions. So if anybody's listening to this later, just imagine a lot of really fun hand movements. So.
Well, those are the benefits of those of us tuning in live, right? they get to watch the Chris Brimmage waves here. Other questions for Chris? Yes,
yeah, I've got 2 questions, I guess. Just to clarify, first is, are you looking for, in terms of dealing with the longer dead zone, are you looking for strategies to bring more people in, or is it more figuring out how to like mentally and emotionally deal with the dead zone?
I think more of the former than the latter. I think because I've done enough of the Kickstarter launches by now, like I expected a dead zone, so it's not as much of a shock to get one. It's more strategies to maybe make it feel less like a dead zone, where it's pulling more backers in, ideas to make it so that there's less of a lull in the middle of the campaign and a continuous build of excitement around it.
So the other question I had in that case is just, what are you currently doing?
Yeah, the strategy I've been using thus far to address it has been, I've been doing weekly free giveaways to backers, and so I had a day one giveaway where if you backed in the first 24 hours, I'll send you a acrylic pen that is Mandrill PI on it, sort of in action. And then I had a week 2 giveaway that was one of the side characters, like Manny, that's Mandrill PI's name. Manny's like BFF, who is at this point in the novels a disembodied head of an elephant that is a vampire. And then week 2, another acrylic pen. And then this week, the thing that we're doing is an ebook version of one of my back catalog, which is a space revenge Western called Plug 'em Good. And it's one of those things where like the first 24-hour one and that week 1 one moved the needle quite a bit in terms of like right at the end of when each of those giveaways were about to expire. I had a bump. The week 2 one, where it was another acrylic pen of Manny's old partner, Kip Catfish, that one was one that moved the needle a bit less. And it remains to be seen what a digital one will do with this ebook from my backlist. So that's what I'm doing thus far. And then the normal stretch goals and milestones and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled up and shared some of the things that Chris is doing there. He's got stretch goals going. He has milestone rewards. So you've got it's clear you've got some campaign events going, and something that you hit on, which is just a truth of all marketing, is that consumers are most likely to make decisions when they're about to lose something, and so the more deadlines that you can add throughout a campaign, the more likely you are to bring people in that are receptive to that message, the more likely it is to turn that on. I want to open it up and just share some strategies for keeping things going and dead zone strategies that have worked for us. Maybe jump over to James as someone that's launching and experiencing this, and I'm curious also if you want to touch on it, James. Have you adjusted the length of your campaigns, or done anything related to this dead zone experience?
That was the first thing I was going to say. Most of my campaigns now I actually run for 2 weeks, because I've noticed that, with that dead zone, I mean, you have those like first 2 days and last 2 days, really. And then the amount that I was making in between was almost the same, whether I ran for 3 weeks or if I'm running for 2 weeks. So I've been doing a shorter 2-week campaigns, and they have been, doing very, very well. So I'm shortening the dead zone essentially. And then in between on the dead zone, I mean, one of the things that I do is I'm sending out solicitations to do those cross promos all the time with other projects, to kind of drum or bring in some new people, sending out the emails. I don't do the events like Chris was just talking about, though. I haven't done those yet. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found doing the shorter campaigns has been beneficial to my own sanity.
Jeff, what are you thinking about Dead Zone strategy? I know this is something that you were actually trying to come up with some ideas for. I'm curious as you've been diving in and as you've been thinking about something to do, what have you been seeing?
Yeah, I've been taking a look. One thing I've been trying to do is keep up with my posting on social media, which is, kind of a 101 kind of thing. But another thing that was recommended to me that seems like it would help a lot is doing like live streams, stuff like that. Like I'll be going live on this Saturday on Instagram to do some live drawing, do up a sketch, and I'll be adding that as an add-on to the campaign. Something small like that. Seems like it was suggested by KJ Murphy, actually. Somebody else in the ComixLaunch community recommended that to me, and I've decided putting it into practice, and we'll see how that goes. But
yeah,
that's what I've got.
Yeah, one thing that worked really well on the past couple of campaigns that I've done during the Dead Zone is just really playing with Kickstarter's add-on feature and its time-based discount feature. So sold more of some of our backlist hardcovers by making them available, and I think I did a pretty steep discount, like in some cases like a 50% off discount, but it's an add-on only, and it's 48 hours only, and then you can add it on and it'll be regular price. And people like backers that already have their wallets open, if you can give them and present them a really good deal that is like a no-brainer and it's going to go away. And what's nice about add-ons as opposed to just stretch goals or just freebie unlocks that everybody gets is that that helps to counteract any of the backer drops that come in there. It's like, oh, we lost a couple backers, but our existing backers, a bunch of them just loaded up on some backlist add-on stuff because the deal was too good. So that's something that I would say, and a corollary to that is you probably have some add-ons from your backlist that are already up there, but have you devoted any time to really sell that to new people potentially that are joining this campaign for the first time or that haven't bought it yet? And so sometimes taking a Kickstarter update, taking a day, if you have the time to, say, if you like this, here's something that you're really going to like, or here's why you should upgrade to X, Y, or Z. Don, from your campaigns, anything going on in the middle of the campaigns to help at least pass the time and make it feel a little?
Unicorn, that was my first one, and it hit me hard, man. Emotionally, I was like, oh, this is crazy. It's like I didn't really understand it. Tried a bunch of stuff, man, like promotion on the holiday and a lot of social media and ads and stuff. I don't know if any of it was super effective. I love your idea about back catalog stuff for inexpensively. I know that's really effective at the retail level for the comic labels I've been involved with. The 50% off sale for 2 days, bunch of sales come in. So I never thought of that doing it in the middle of a Kickstarter. I think it's a great idea. So I'll probably be doing that for mine and all these other ones too. But yeah, to be honest, I haven't really been great at counteracting that. I usually like ostrich method. I just put my head underground and don't think about it until the last few days. I love the idea of going shorter. I think that's really interesting too. I think it's scary for people, but it makes a lot of sense, to keep that pressure on. And I often wonder about the algorithm. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but I often wonder how much your goal matters too to the algorithm. Like, does a Kickstarter algorithm know that, like, oh my God, he's $500 away? If the goal is a little higher, will the algorithm kick in at the end and help you get there? Because they don't want to lose that money either. So I'm just curious if anyone knows anything about that too.
From what I've gathered, it's not that sophisticated. It's just not. And so they also purposely do not want the algorithm to be the kind of thing where a lesser project that with a lesser goal that funds in a lesser time gets boosted over a project that put a a goal that was, more appropriate. Like they don't, even though we see a lot of funded in 17 minutes or whatever, like, and people like using that as a bragging point. I don't think it's not really in Kickstarter's best interest to incentivize that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. I just seeing that he's tuning in the live broadcast. And I also point Chris to Ryan Clater's approach, where he and some of the surviving the dead zone, I think should be pointed out, is about the prep work that you do before you launch. The fact that Ryan has on his last couple of launches has been able to basically set up an interview or a blog post, that interview that's going to go live, or a live stream, or a Facebook group cross promotion, something for every day of the campaign. And he sort of preloads that and works to set up that schedule in advance of the campaign. But although you can still do that during campaign as well. But that helps him so that he's, having conversations and talking about his project, and not spending that time like hitting the refresh button on his campaign, hoping the backers would show up. It's hard to do that when you are also out there just talking up your project. And it turns out it's the talking up your project and being excited about what you're creating with people that you like that actually lights you up. So as Ryan said, scheduling those interviews helps keep your mind off of how many pledges are coming in to drive stuff in. So I think that's definitely a great tip as well. Scott, any thoughts or things that help you?
Well, I mean, the strategy to have the timed things and the free giveaways if you've backed at a certain point, I think is really interesting. It's not something that I've tried. What strikes me about it is that it's more about converting the people that are coming to the page as opposed to driving new people, which I think is interesting. So one thing that helps me when I'm in the dead zone, today's the first day in my campaign where so far I haven't had any backers at all, but I can see that I have gained 3 followers today. So I really like the follower count, because on days when it's really slow, I can see that what I'm doing is still having an effect. It is still driving people to the page. So for me, it's interesting, the stuff that you're doing that's to more convert the people that are coming to the page. I kind of want to get some of that. So these people that are like, I can see that what I'm doing is still bringing people there, but for whatever reason, they're not converting. So I guess finding a balance there is good, but just mentally, I find the follower count to be useful to me during the dead zone as an indicator of the fact that I'm not just wasting my time and people are listening.
Yeah, that is one of those things that helps me during a launch. Is I do try to have, like, on a daily basis, I'm just sort of updating my stats, and I even write it out manually because it just feels like it's a little bit more active. But yeah, and how many followers am I at now? How many followers am I at now is something that I've been just jotting down as well, because it's true that you can do a whole lot, but at least you're seeing, oh, well, we still got X number of hits to the page. We still got our follower count increased, as Scott said. So even if it's not translating into backing, which statistically in the middle of the campaigns is the hardest time to, it's the hardest time to get pledges and actual backers, and such that, I worked with a marketing firm on the last Kickstarter running paid traffic. But it seems like, and most people that I talk to, they end up running ads pretty hard the first couple of days, but most of the time those ads are getting turned off in the middle stretch, because it's really hard to convert people in the middle of a Kickstarter campaign. And so just especially from cold traffic. So the other thing I think is also worth thinking about is, if we know that the campaign itself is going to do well and is going to show growth, or is going to hit, the overall campaign objective, how much do we really care how it goes about that on a day-to-day basis, right? Because another thing that a lot of creators are seeing, and I'm sure we'll get into this with Don's topic, but a lot of people are seeing like really strong launches, stronger than perhaps in years past. But the corollary to that is tougher dead zones. And do we and psychologically, do we care? Are we going to let that affect us? I want to come back to Chris now and just reflect a little bit about what was valuable from this and thoughts.
Yeah, I'd say a couple of things. One, first, thanks everybody for all of the advice and all of the ideas. I think there was a lot of really great stuff here. I'd say the thing that was the biggest takeaway, I think, is doing a bit more focus on add-ons and some messaging to backers and some updates focused specifically on the add-ons. And I really like that idea of that like short period with like 50% off something in my back catalog that I have, copies of, that I think readers of this book would really, really love, because it's something that I think could, you're right, help offset some like dropped pledges while also, generating further excitement. And then the idea of the shorter campaign. This one I had the choice between doing something way shorter than I've ever done, like 2 weeks or less, or way longer, and I ended up going way longer. And I think next time I might experiment with going way shorter and see how that goes. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks for bringing that topic up, Chris. That was a good one. Appreciate the contributions from those of us that are watching this, and those that will check out the replay. Again, continue to share, comment, be a part of this broadcast as we move on and bring on our next participant. And again, I want to thank all of the creators for participating in this. Sometimes it's tough coming up here and sharing what's going on, issues and struggles. But the fact that we're willing to do that is one of the things that makes the comics community, I think, special. Because there is since I got started in this, the ability of creators to reach out and support has been amazing. And so with that, I want to bring on our next creator, and that is Jeff Lorentz. Jeff is an up-and-coming comic artist and writer from Maine. He's been drawing comics most of his life, and his work includes the blue-collar horror comedy My Coworker is a Vampire, and he is live with his very first Kickstarter for the cult horror series Skin of My Teeth. Now, a fun fact is that I actually first met Jeff at a comic book convention over a decade ago when he was just 11 years old. So definitely dating me. And he was interested in creating comics then, has never stopped. And so I'm happy to have a younger creator who's like early on his journey, joining some of us grizzled vets here in this round table. And I want to hear a little bit more, Jeff, about the Kickstarter that you have going on right now for Skin of My Teeth. What can you tell us about this book?
I'm happy to be here. So this is Skin of My Teeth. It's my vintage style cult horror comic. It's sort of asking the question, what would you do if your best friend got kidnapped by a cult? Then you can see all the kind of crazy stuff going on there. Basically, this is a private investigator whose partner finds the holy book of a cult, and his partner goes missing, and he gets dragged into all that bad voodoo that's going on in that cult.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I want to let's get started with your topic here, Jeff. What's on your mind?
It's just building up the confidence to share my work. You look at other people who've been doing this a lot longer than I have, and my work obviously isn't quite as polished or quite as, I guess polished is the right word. Just trying to build up the confidence to really push my work out there, even if it's not quite up to that level as some of the other people or projects that you would see on Kickstarter.
Okay. Yeah. So the challenge of building your confidence to share your work and sort of perceiving a gap between where you're at and where you want to be at. Definitely something I don't think I've met an artist or a writer that hasn't faced this. clarification questions for Jeff. Chris, you want to get us started?
Sure. When you say you feel there's a gap between your taste and your talent, is that something that people have told you, or is that something that's all self-imposed?
It's definitely more self-imposed than anything. I tend to be my own worst critic as far as stuff like that goes.
That's what I figured. I just wanted to ask the question to clarify.
Other questions for Jeff? One of the things, I guess, one of the things that, and this is a little bit related to Scott's, when you think about your talents, like if you could be regarded as one of the best in the world at blank, what would go in the blank?
Probably just a general cartoonist. Like, I like both the writing and the drawing aspect of it. A lot of my heroes are the guys that would write and draw both their own stories, so that's kind of where I want to be.
Okay. You mentioned your tastes. Like, who are some of those artists that you look up to? Like, what are some of the styles that you're going for, that you're trying to work toward over time?
Yeah, well, I love my big heroes are Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, the original Mirage Studios Ninja Turtles guys. But then the masters of the craft, people like Ditko or Bernie Wrightson, people like that, who have just that, the lushly illustrated work that it's something to aspire to, but obviously it takes a whole other level of craft.
Any other questions for Jeff? All right, I want to dive in a little bit on just thoughts on how do you go about it? So, everyone here, Jeff, has been sharing their work publicly for better or for worse for at least 5 years, if not 15 to 20. And so this is something that I think all of us have sort of had to get over in order to keep doing this. Who wants to kick us off on just mindset around this? Yeah, Don, go ahead.
I mean, look, I think it's really about following your passion, man. Just whatever you enjoy, you're going to get better at, whatever you put time in. And it's hard to put yourself out there because people are going to criticize you. But I actually know you said Ninja Turtles. There's a guy named Ben Bishop who is now drawing all the big Ninja Turtle things. And he was just a dude who was a huge fan of Ninja Turtles, who was just determined to be an artist and just drew and drew and drew and drew. And, you see, he's a great example of a guy who just followed his passion all the way to, where he wants to be. And, I see that all the time. I mean, I do so many different things. I always see these people that just focused on one thing, and I'm always in awe of how well they've done and how far they've gone with it, with that sort of just relentless focus and passion, so I think you're on the right track, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, Scott, what thoughts do you have for Jeff?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, one thing that was really helpful for me was actually finding the indie comics community. When I was growing up, I really wanted to do comics, and I, for decades, didn't make comics because I didn't think my art was good enough. That's because I was comparing myself to Marvel and DC, the comics that I was reading, but eventually I found the indie comics community. I went to MICE, the Massachusetts Independent Comics Expo. There's all these people that are making comics because they love making comics. And it inspired me to, put out my first comic, even though I didn't think my art was good enough. And, I'm not drawing, Crime Busters anymore, but I did the first 4 issues. And when I switched and hired an artist who I thought was so much better than me and everything, people have liked his work, but I've had a number of people say, "Oh, he's good, but we miss your art. I liked your art better." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought my art sucked." you know, but it turns out people actually liked it. So, you know, just what we tell ourselves, you know, is going on isn't necessarily what's actually going on. Sometimes when you put the stuff out there, you'll be surprised that, you know, we sometimes have a warped view of our own work that other people can see a lot more clearly than we can.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from friends and people who back the campaign. It's definitely more of like a self-imposed, you know, you always think you can do a little bit better, right?
Right. And that's the beauty of it, right? Because you can and you will if you stick with it. You know, like I don't know any artist. It's a weird thing that I've seen. It's like you will always look at the stuff you did like 6 months, like 6 weeks to 6 months ago with like, I don't know, just like, it's awful. It's not where it needs to be, etc. But if you look at the stuff you did like 5 years ago, you'll actually appreciate. It's like, you know what? Good. I'm glad that kid stuck with it, because if he hadn't, he wouldn't have gotten here. And like I found that a lot. And so if you stick with it, like, and you know, you're still in the age where you still got to get your 10,000 hours in, your 10,000, you know, pages in. And so as long as you're working on it and working towards it, and also I think it's important to still be at this stage searching out mentors, getting credit. There's like, and this is something that I'd actually be interested to hear some of you that are working professionally at this kind of stuff is just because you are putting it out there for people to buy and selling it and putting your name behind it does not mean you can't also be working on a plan to be getting better. And so there's sort of like this, I'm selling this, but I also know that I want to get my work. Like there's people, whether it be editors or other artists that I trust, that or people that I you know, look up to, like, if I put this in their hands and they tear it apart and they tell me everything that could be better about it, like the response to that is thank you so much. And you take notes and you work on those things. And you can sort of do both. Even because we all know that like the stuff that we work on today, we ultimately want to be working on better stuff down the line. But I don't know, James, what's coming to mind for you related to this topic?
My comment is short on this one. You know, for me, like, you know, if I'm happy with it and I'm proud of it, I don't give a crap what other people think. And that's like the advice that I can give for you is like, just, you know, if you are happy with it and you enjoy it, then just put it out there. Just go with it and don't care.
Definitely.
Like I said,
definitely going for it. But,
yeah. The other thing also is like, you know, there's always going to be people that are better at us at certain things, but those people are not also putting out work every single day necessarily. You know, I can, like, with the ComixLaunch stuff and the Kickstarter advice stuff, like, if I had waited till I got to this point, like, you know, if I waited to like do $1 million in funding on Kickstarter before I started sharing resources to Kickstarter, like, because I didn't have the authority or the background or the pedigree, like I probably never would have actually gotten to this point at all. I started sharing ideas and what I was doing and strategies and things that I thought might work before I had raised a single dollar on Kickstarter, just because I was really passionate about it, interested in it, saw other people were interested in it and wanted to talk about it and wanted to share it to express myself. And so I do think one of the cool things about Kickstarter, but also, you know, the potentially difficult things is that, you know, you can get your book out into the world and in front of a global audience and raise, in some cases, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it can be, early in your career. Whereas like, when I was first started, like there was no Kickstarter. Like my first couple of comic books were seen by family members and, a couple of random people that ran into me and saw I had a paper copy in my backpack. Right. And so, the new generation coming up with you is going to create stuff, is going to put it out into the world, is going to sell it potentially. And that's great. Like it's awesome. But that it still is, your first couple of work that's out there. And so expect that it's going to get better as long as you keep with it.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts for Jeff?
I'm just going to add, Tyler, that, there was not only, when we were getting, growing up, there was not only no Kickstarter, there was no internet. So, like the whole, digital age, talking about sharing things on paper and everything, that was for everybody here, except for probably Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeff will never know the joys of a dial-up modem.
The before time.
The digital age has really changed things for creators.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And then the other thing, Jeff, though, is like something that I've heard before is like the fact that you are able to put your stuff out there, much like Eastman and Laird did with their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which if you go and you Google the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book that they took to a convention, like that's not a highly polished looking book. Those are some weird looking, like I'm sure some people would be like, those are turtles? Those are supposed to be turtles? Like or ninjas? What? That's not the fully polished Nickelodeon like Michael Bay movie Turtles. It was rough, right? But part of the roughness is part of the appeal, and the fact that you're out there putting your stuff out there also can have the impact on other people out there who might not have like the confidence to share their stuff because maybe their stuff doesn't look like the masters out there, but they see you're out there, you're passionate, they read it, they enjoy it. And it encourages them to go out there and do it as well. And honestly, if you can do that, like that's worth it, So yeah, I definitely hope you continue to be passionate about improving your talents, but don't let that stop you from sharing your stuff in the meantime, man.
I don't know. I'll be sticking with it and definitely keep putting books out. And I've always said I don't have to be, I don't have to put out my magnum opus right now. But it can come out, if I keep working 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we don't know. I just have to keep pushing to grow.
Yeah. Well, time is on your side, my friend. And I will say that Ryan Clater, Jeff, you just made another sale. I love what I see, and I love single auteur works, and he's going to dive into Skin in My Teeth, and can't wait to see more. Keep it up. So
awesome. Thank you, Ryan.
At the very least, sharing your vulnerability here got you another Kickstarter backer, and Ryan's a great professor of comics, and definitely has done some really awesome ComixLaunch episodes in the past. So go seek those out if you haven't checked out Ryan's episodes. They're chock full of good stuff. So thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Jeff, for bringing that hot seat to the table.
Thank you.
All right. We are not slowing down. We are speeding up. We've got another hot seat, 2 more to go. So thank everybody for tuning in. We are going to now turn our attention toward Mr. Don Handfield. Don is an experienced and successful writer and producer. You probably know his work as the co-creator and the executive producer of the History Channel's drama series Nightfall. He's also producer of the critically acclaimed films such as The Founder, starring Michael Keaton, and Kill the Messenger, starring Hawkeye, aka Jeremy Renner. He's also found success on Kickstarter with the graphic novel Unicorn and The Lost Boy: Origin of Peter Pan. And Don is going to be back on Kickstarter with Lost Boy. The pre-launch page for that is up right now. This is the first and second issue. Don, what can you tell us about this work?
I have to unmute myself. This is something I wrote with my daughter. My kids were the reason I wrote Unicorn, and my daughter's very creative. She's an artist and she's a writer, and she asked me one night when she was little, like, how Peter Pan began, and just kind of started this conversation. And she had a really original take on the character that was really fresh, but somehow just made perfect sense. And I'm a big history buff and have been sort of researching this era before police in London. There was these guys called thief takers, and they were kind of like mob bosses, but they kept the thieves in line. Like if a thief was stealing something, they would people would put a reward. Like I lost my address book, I'll offer in 5 gold pieces for it. This guy would go to the thieves and go, hey, who got the address book? The thieves would give it to him, and he would give the thief some money, and then he would give the thing back to the person. So it was like this weird kind of grift mobster thing that kept order, but it was really like a lot of the thieves were working for the thief takers, or they knew of them. And there's a guy named Jack Shepard and Jonathan Wild who were Jack Shepard was a thief who was a locksmith who just kind of wanted to be a thief, and he became this massive figure as he went up against this guy who was a big thief taker, and became very romanticized at the time. It was the inspiration for the Beggar's Opera. And I'm just fascinated of this. I'm fascinated with the origin stories. I did The Founder, McDonald's. I'm fascinated by the origin of police and like how that all came about, and just that time period just was really perfect for setting this story about a bunch of street urchins, and how one of them found out this secret that led them to the story we know and love. And unlike most fantasies, I wanted to just keep it in London. So this is a Peter Pan story, but we'll never see Neverland. Like at the end of the first volume, they go to Neverland, and then he comes back, and there's other stuff that happens, but we'll never see them at Neverland. This is all about all the stuff in London. So
yeah, cool take. And how old's your daughter that you
she's 14 now. She was probably like 11 or 12 when we started this journey. And it's funny, she draws one of the covers for the first book, and she just drew the cover for the second book. And it's just interesting to see her development as an artist. I mean, it just gets better every time, and it's just interesting to watch. It's been a joy to work with her on it. And as far as fulfillment, I'm all for other people doing it, but I have kids, and that's what they're there for. So I'm teaching them the wherewithals of, we got it down to a system now. The first time I did fulfillment was on the first issue because they were there, and I feel like the beginning I was like, why did we do this? But they got the hang of it, and now it's like a well-oiled machine. So.
Yeah. My 5-year-old, his hands aren't quite big enough to effectively bag and board a book, but I'm going to be training them.
Exactly.
Well, Don, thank you for being here. The new book and series looks awesome, and we'll be definitely linking up to it and checking that out on Kickstarter when it goes live for Lost Boys numbers 1 and 2. But let's talk about your hot seat related to pre-launch. You want to explain a little bit more what's on your mind here?
Yeah, I have a couple things teed up. I'm doing some stuff, my own projects, personal projects. I'm doing some projects. I'm doing a project that's going to launch shortly with Martin Kove, who's Sensei Kreese from Cobra Kai, if anyone's a fan of that show. It's a Western I'm doing with him. I have another more ambitious kind of mixed reality comic project I'm launching in the next few months as well. And the pre-launch part, like for Unicorn, we built a Facebook page. We kind of did a lot of work. I don't know how much of that converted, to be honest, but we did take a lot of time beforehand to try to build an audience. My last couple of Kickstarters, I haven't really done too much groundwork before then. I've kind of just let them run their course, and I'm just wanting to get more involved with it and just be a little more mindful of how I put things out there, and how they're sort of cared for beforehand and set up for success, especially some of these ones where the target amount would be higher than the usual comics. So I've reached out to some crowdfund marketers. It seems like there's more of them that are legit now. I'm having conversations with one of them. I'd love to know anyone who's had great experiences in that regard, or if you have other advice for just generating sort of pre-launch interest, so when you hit that first day, you really make sure you trigger the algorithm and have success.
Absolutely. So Yeah, pre-launch planning, and I think pre-launch has always been a big part of Kickstarter, but the tools and the ecosystem has definitely evolved a little bit, so that there's even more out there to potentially use, but then that also adds to some confusion. So good thing is we have a lot of creators that have launched and have tried to build their audiences in advance. Who has any clarification questions for Don before we dive in here?
Well, I do, but first I want to say I think I got your Martin Cove Western book at New York Comic Con. Were you guys there?
Yeah, we were,
We're
man.
promoting
You should hang on to that because we got a little trouble from the they thought the cover looked too much like Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption, yeah, that's what I got.
That
yeah.
cannot be that comic cannot be sold anymore, man. So you have a collector's item on your hand. But
Nice.
yeah. So but yeah, we're launching that book. That was like an Ashcan teaser, and we're launching that book and a little bit with Marty. He's a huge fan of westerns, and I was a big fan of Cobra Kai when he and I met, and he wanted to do a western, and so.
So
Yeah,
the question I have, So the question I have simply is like, what exactly are you or have you done for pre-launch before?
Well, the thing I've done in the past was for Unicorn. We created a Facebook page, ran some ads, built that up to about 7.5 thousand followers. And then when we had that when we launched, we did ads during Unicorn too. I felt like I knew how to place an ad on Facebook. I don't think I knew how to make sure it did anything other than, so I don't know if they were ever effective. I never quite had it geared up. I mean, there's a few people that I'm talking to in the space now that seem like they really know what they're doing. And I was going to test the waters with Lost Boy and then use them for both the Martin Cove project and the other thing I'm launching. But not much more. I mean, other than just let friends and family know, and people know. I have a mailing list from my books over the years of a few, little over 1,200, 1,300 people that I notify when things are coming out, but I haven't been as mindful of it as I should or could be, and it's something I'm focusing more on.
Yeah. Other questions, Chris?
James beat me to the first one, which was, what are you already planning? It also sounds like you have you have a platform built up on Facebook. Are there any other platforms that you have sort of built a following up on aside from your email list?
Not really. I mean, I have some. Yeah, not really. I mean, Instagram and stuff like that. I'm not I'm kind of social media averse, to be honest. But not, so really the Facebook page is the only thing that has any significant following. Yeah, so it's something that, again, one of those sort of things I need to get better at and focus more on.
Any other questions? All right. Pre-launch tips, strategies, things for Don to try to consider. Yeah, James, kick us off.
So the most effective thing that I have used, and especially since you have those Kickstarters in the bag already, is using that backer kit launch thing. It's it's like $100 for your campaign, and it sends emails literally to everybody who has backed all of your campaigns already. So it's people that are familiar with you already, and it's the thing that gets me. And I mean, I can tell you on my latest campaign, I mean, right now, about almost 100 backers on it. Just from those emails that get sent out from that backer kit launch.
And is that you have to send them your previous lists, or they just have it from backer kit?
If you just sign into backer kit, and then it'll connect to your Kickstarter.
Yeah. And one thing that's even cooler about BackerKit, because I know you're working with Clay Adams, right?
Yeah. Clay and I. Well. Clay actually is the co-writer of the Marty Cove project.
Yeah. So what's great about BackerKit is that it doesn't they don't all have to be your projects. So if you are, working on, if you have different creators or different collaborators, you can actually sync up so that Clay could put in all of his relevant Kickstarter campaigns and connect those, all of your relevant Kickstarter campaigns. If Marty or the artist had a Kickstarter account and or was on other projects, you could pull those in, and then it creates this pool of past backers, and then it will show you how many of those backers have backed already. And it will then let you only send follow-up emails if you want to people that haven't backed yet. And so, like James, I've found that is by far the biggest ROI marketing thing that I spend. It's not a replacement for email. It is an addition to.
Gotcha. Cool. No, that's helpful. And I forgot to mention, Marty has a couple million followers on his Instagram account for that project.
So there's that.
Only a couple million.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like, I don't know, 1.5 or something like that. He's got his Cobra Kai is pretty hot right now, so he's got some. He can get it out there. I guess it's how to manage that. Yeah. Should we wait till there's a pre-launch page to get him to hit that up and get people on it? Yeah. So.
Well, that would be one thing that I would also call out is this. Because you have those extra resources and those things that most people don't have, that may encourage you to get to have a longer pre-launch page window, so you're submitting your project earlier, and so that you get that pre-launch page up, so that you can spend a month driving that and testing out a couple of things and seeing what happens. Like, if Marty does a Instagram thing about it and sends people to, like, what does that do? Does that increase the follower count? Another thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to go on to a different topic. So if you wanted to.
I was just going to say, like, have you guys found, like, I just, the pre-launch thing, I'm just curious about, I feel like you call people to action. I feel like it's making you call people to action twice, but have you guys found that it's effective, that they will sign up and then they will back when it launches? Or is it more effective to be like, go there now and do this now, as opposed to go there and just bookmark it for later?
I mean, I think most creators that I've talked to have, since they've rolled out, I don't think I know a single creator that hasn't had a career best launch day
from doing a pre-launch
after and there is a direct correlation between the number of pre-launch followers and what your day one looks like.
Okay, that's good to know.
And because that then has the carry-on effect of where you're ranking on Kickstarter, and like it's huge. So I mean, the last campaign that I launched, it was my most successful, also my worst dead zone, but we had over 800 or 900 pre-launch followers, and that translated into our biggest day one by a country mile. So definitely do that. Another thing that I would potentially look at is a little bit of reverse engineering of some of the bigger comic book and Kickstarter books that trade on the celebrity name. So, like, taking a look again at that Boom Studios Keanu Reeves thing and the media hits that they were getting, it seems like an investment, not just in like the Facebook ads, but also like a PR investment for a known quantity could potentially pay off more so than it would for most comic book Kickstarters, because known quantity, Cobra Kai is pretty hot, and then it's something new coming from this known quantity. So that would be something that I would also be thinking about.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Cool. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Any other pre-launch ideas for Don?
I mean, this one might be, without the context of the Marty Cove on the other project that you're doing, it might feel a little bit out there, but it might be within your reach based on your network, it seems like. So my day job is I work in the spirits industry and brand management. And one of the things that we do is we try and find partnerships to draft off of the equity of the platform that these partners have. And Peter Pan is a pretty known quantity that has been around for a long time. There have been theater productions for it as long as theater has been around. Actually, that's not true, but you know what I mean. And there have been multiple movies based on this property. Is it possible to sort of replicate what you're doing almost with the Marty Cove approach? And even if it's not a celebrity that's as big as Marty Cove, is there somebody in the world of Peter Pan that has a bigger profile than what you would have on your own, that you can offer something to essentially become a part of the project and draft off of that equity, if you will?
I'll think on that. Yeah, nothing popping in mind, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Scott, did you have anything?
Well, it was kind of covered a little bit by the backer kit. I haven't used the backer kit launch. What I've found in my campaigns has been the most effective, though, isn't even my mailing list. It's actually updating my previous Kickstarters. I'm a big proponent of trying to capture the people that are already on the platform, rather than trying to drive people to Kickstarter to buy a comic. The people that are already on Kickstarter specifically to buy comics are the people that, I always try and target. So when you have people that have already done it on your own campaigns, like I always try, I get the best results from my updates, even more than my mailing list.
Yeah. Updates. And then also remember that those Kickstarter messages, you can still message past backers. So like going on your biggest previous campaign and just using that messenger, like, even though it seems like it's overkill, in the creators that I talk to, they always sort of forget, oh, you know what? Like some things get through and like in ways that others don't. And, when you send a message, now more people are using the Kickstarter app, and that will actually live there and sort of stay there, and people can check their messages as they go. So there's more, more is more when it comes to this stuff. The other thing that I would also say that I think both Lost Boy and the Martin Cove project could lend itself well with would be a viral giveaway. I love doing viral giveaways in the lead up to Kickstarter campaigns. And that's sort of where you put together a bundle of goodies that would be high value goodies, usually things that you can purchase all on Amazon so that you can for free Prime shipping, so that you can just send the winner to it. But it's somebody's going to win a grand prize, but everybody is going to get at least they're going to get everybody to enter. They're going to get on your email list. They're going to be incentivized to share the contest to earn the greater chances of winning. One of the things that you're going to incentivize is going to your Kickstarter pre-launch page, and they're also going to get on your email list. And a part of getting on your email list is you're going to give them something free, like the digital ash can for that, and then you're going to follow up on an email sequence, and warm these people that might not have jumped at a ad that they saw for a comic that they'd never heard of and the name Kickstarter, but they would jump in on a giveaway for the Martin Cove video collection or DVD collection, or the 10 Peter Pan novels in that giveaway that we're doing in lead up to this new launch for something else. And so that always works really well. And it's also something that you can offer to your existing backers and audience as well. I like doing a giveaway to energize my existing fan base before I launch the new thing.
And where do you usually typically mount that? Are you on Facebook? Are you on where are you running that?
So I like using actual tools that are designed for this because it's technology that it's built in. So King Sumo is the one that I tend to use the most. It's probably the industry leader. Yeah. I can show you some examples offline, and I've done ComixLaunch episodes about the viral giveaway strategy, but it's the easiest, cheapest way to add a couple thousand new people, complete strangers, to your email list in the lead up to a launch. And also it can help juice that pre-launch followers page if that's one of the things that increases their odds of winning.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, the King Sumo is great. I would caution, especially if you get a big influx, like if Marty ends up, helping to further propagate it in any of your future projects, just having an extra opt-in after they receive it, because otherwise, if you use something like MailChimp or something and people don't realize that's why they're getting that email because they haven't done like an extra opt-in step, then you might get put in like email jail from.
Yeah, one of the things we have is Marty has one of the original Cobra Kai gis that he's worn in the show that he wants to. We were going to use it on Kickstarter, but it might make more sense to do King Sumo beforehand to just build the list out, right?
Could potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has a bunch of other stuff like action figures and stuff like that I'm sure that we could throw in there too.
Nice. All right, cool. Good suggestions. Anything else? Just pre-launch.
Oh, thanks, guys. Those are great ideas.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Don. Thanks for bringing that to the table, and hopefully we'll see some of those things in action as you're building up your pre-launch followers. All right, we have one more creator to share with everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Tony Cade in the comments said, by the by, one of the episodes of Cobra Kai season 2 was filmed in his comic shop. Shout out your comic shop in the chat, Tony. They taught the actors how to play Magic the Gathering while there. That's cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Finally, we are going to wrap things up here with our last but definitely not least creator. We have James Mascia. James is the creative powerhouse behind Dren Productions. He publishes awesome horror, sci-fi, and fantasy comics, including Flesh-Eating Cheerleaders, Plan 59 from Outer Space, Dungeons and Dimwits, High School Heroes, and more. And James is live once again on Kickstarter this month with the latest Dungeons and Dimwits launch. James, 5 days to go on this one. What can you tell us about Dungeons and Dimwits?
Well, I will just say that it is almost the same project that Scott is running. The only difference is that mine is a very much a comedic take on it. Essentially, what we've done is, or what Dungeons and Dimwits started out as, was all of these, crazy and stupid things that, the players and us, said or discussed during the games. We illustrated them. And we had so many of these little, like, one-panel comics that we ended up putting them together into 2 complete books. And then we decided, hey, let's do a story. But it's, a very comedic take, a very funny look at, playing role-playing games. Okay, so playing Dungeons and Dragons and playing, Pathfinder or whatever, TTRPG you play.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's sort of a different market from some of your other comic stuff, but you've sort of balanced building that one up as well. So it's become a good sort of category and niche for you and for Dren Productions, right?
Yes, we enjoyed this one too.
All right.
We like doing the funny comics sometimes as well.
Nice. Well, your topic is another one that I think just about every creator is going to hit at some point. If you're not already there, you will be at some point, related to plateauing. But can you explain a little bit more about what's on your mind and what this issue is?
Essentially, that we run a lot of campaigns during the year, and we do essentially, for a lot of them, we're doing like the same stretch goals, the same add-ons and everything. And, we're looking for some new ideas here. I mean, like, for instance, like, every campaign, like one of the things we do is a magnet with the logo of that particular property that we're doing, or we're doing, a sticker, or, a mini print, or, some digital comics, digital wallpapers, all sorts of things. Like it's needs some new ideas to throw in there, something different, something that's going to really, get people to say like, "Ooh, wow, we need to get that," type thing.
Okay. Yeah, great. Start with some clarifying questions for James. Chris.
What are some of the current mainstays that you do besides some of the ones that you already listed? So as we're brainstorming, we can make sure that we're not telling you things you already do. So.
Well, like I said, it's the magnets, it's the stickers, it's mini prints, digital wallpapers. Sometimes it's writing an additional like short story, or doing like a little mini comic that goes along with the series. Doing digital comics, from like other creators and stuff to throw in there as well. Trying to think of what else. What else do we do? Pins on occasion we'll do. Bookmarks. Like little things like that. And then like as far as like add-ons go, we'll do like the hollow foil covers, and we'll do like special edition, limited edition cover. We'll do large prints, stuff like that.
So you're doing a lot of stuff. You've tried a lot of stuff, is what you're
tried a
telling
lot
us.
of stuff, yes.
Yeah.
But it's like it's the same stuff. That's the thing. It's like it's the same stuff campaign after campaign.
Yeah. Other questions for James? Yeah, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you just listed everything that you're doing, but a question I had is, do you do the same things for like each campaign? Do you have different like styles of things or types of things like that are customized to the specific types of campaigns that you're running, or is it just sort of a generalized thing?
It depends on the campaign. Like for instance, like essentially every campaign that we've launched in the last, like, I would want to say like 2 years, has had that magnet as the first stretch goal. Okay, it's just a little magnet there. They're inexpensive to get done and everything, and it's just like a logo of the, it's either the flesh-eating cheerleaders, or in this case, it's the Dungeons and Dimwits, logo. But we've done that for like every campaign. We do like a sticker, and it'll like the sticker will be like a character, from the book, or sometimes it'll be a sticker of one of the covers, but yeah, it's essentially the same stuff for each of the campaigns, just tailored to that particular campaign. If that makes sense. Like, I mean, when we do the large print add-ons, I'll say that's generally for more of the adult horror books, because that's where they sell better, rather than like the Dungeon Dimwits, where we don't have much luck selling those.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What are your backers asking you for that you're not giving them?
They're not asking me for anything, actually.
And when was the last time you ran a survey to this particular, if we're talking about the Dungeons and Dimwits audience, like, have you run a survey recently, or surveyed your Dungeons and Dimwits D&D audience
No,
anytime recently?
have not.
No.
So that's on the list then.
Yeah, because one of the things that the C is for Cthulhu audience has been asking us for years has been more plush toys from other characters other than Cthulhu. And for the longest time, I was reluctant to do that because I'm like, these things are so expensive. Like, that's not necessarily our brand. Like, we don't have a book to pair with these. And I fought it and I fought it and I fought it. And then we just did it, and it turned into our like most explosive launch yet. And is now clearly the direction we will go for the next couple of years in terms of plush expansion launches. And so the power of ask it, but part of that is also that every year I send out a survey to that audience and ask them, and then ask them again, and then put all options in front of them and ask again. And eventually, when they tell me something enough times, I actually listen and we'll go pull that together. So that's just one thing that is a really good habit to get into, is getting curious, asking people what they want, and then offering it to them to the point where they're like, you're reading my mind. Take, and then that becomes those like take my money backers. Other thoughts on things that either you've offered or you've seen people offer that you've got, or this could also be just things you're doing during a Kickstarter campaign that reinvigorates potential backers, get people off the hook. Chris, thoughts?
I mean, first thing that popped into my head was, and the reason why I asked that other question, are you comfortable with running a D&D session for potential backers? Could that be an add-on that you could throw in there? And maybe not D&D if you want a lower hanging fruit in terms of backstory to have to create something. There's like Powered by the Apocalypse versions of games that you could do that's really simple for like a single session that you could think about.
No, I mean, I could do the D&D thing, like I was saying, like when I'm saying like I'm running almost the same thing that Scott is running. I have a D&D campaign or adventure that goes along with the book, just like Scott had. So, like, I mean, like, that is a thing. As far as running one, I don't know how good of a DM I am. we play around and everything, and like with my friends and everything, it's okay. But I don't know.
Yeah, but it could potentially be something that you could also live stream.
I mean, it's an option
around, and then generate even more backers as well. So,
yeah, if I could just jump in, that's actually something that I'm going to be doing. So I don't run, in our gaming group, I'm not the DM, but my DM has helped me make the gaming supplement that's coming with the comic. And we're recording a session on Saturday of he's going to run the game and I'm going to play, and my wife and our friends, our normal gaming group, we're going to play it. And then once I have that recording and I release it, then I'm going to have a new like a reward tier or add-on where he's going to run the game and I'll play in the game, and then we'll have like a couple slots for backers to come and join us in the game. So that's exactly something that we're planning on doing. It's just we haven't probably won't roll it out to the final week.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts. I don't know if you've done this, but your book is about stories you've experienced. I thought you could just have them submit stories, and one of the stories gets in the book, as a way to just engage them. Like their story might get into the book. To that end, I was also thinking that I was reading this marketing book about a coffee company that was all about caffeine delivery, and then they tried to launch other flavors of coffee and it didn't sell. And then they launched something to just help them deliver the caffeine, and they realized that they weren't really a coffee company. They were more of a lifestyle company. So for you, I think it's a sense of maybe minifigures or something that fits into that lifestyle. I noticed you had maps that you also sold that seemed to do pretty well. This idea of creating this kind of ecosystem for gamers that kind of embraces the fun and the sort of interactions that happen. So maybe it's little minifigures, maybe it's something else, or maybe it's this idea of them getting a chance to get their story in the book.
Like Tyler was saying, the minifigures can be expensive though.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I know.
That's the other thing. I looked into just getting someone to design one for 3D printing was a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah, the big game projects make it look so simple, but when you're not making millions of dollars, like all of a sudden those projects can get pretty tough. Jeff, did you have thoughts?
I was also thinking about like the miniature idea, so that's kind of already been discussed. I mean, a cheaper route for that, maybe like an acrylic standee or something like that, like the little acrylic cutout figures. Maybe do something like that. It's a little more cost effective versus going the whole 3D printed route. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was gonna mention acrylic standee seems to be a popular item, or that I've been seeing more and more. And definitely, in pricing them out, they don't necessarily seem to be terribly cost prohibitive, and they can also ship flat, which is nice because they go with the book.
Is there a way to like design character avatars or character? I'm trying to think of the term for it, like digital standees for something like Roll20 that people could access. So even if it's not a physical figure, it could be something they could access on their digital place where they play.
I'm sure that is a thing. I would have to learn how to do it, but yes, I mean, I have the characters. I have like individual drawings of like all the characters. So, and then probably about 50 more that my artist did for me. So that would be a thing. Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like just I don't know the back end of Roll20, but I wonder if there's like a skin that you could create that is Dungeons and Dimwits.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that works, so I'd have to look into it and say.
Well, a couple things that I've thought about doing, and I don't entirely know how this works either, but when it comes to the minifigs, because I know they're popular, but they also can be expensive, is I've looked a little bit at Hero Forge where you can customize and make it. And I think there's ways to like, in the little bit that I've done, I've been able to design the character and then sort of save the template. I'm wondering if it would be something where as an add-on, it wouldn't be necessarily something to sell, not an add-on, but as a stretch goal, you could add something where you could create all the characters and it'll allow them to download the templates. So if they wanted to pay Hero Forge to make the figures themselves, then they could, do it through that way.
Yeah, Hero Forge, unfortunately, cannot use for any commercial reasons.
Yeah, okay. Well,
that's the only thing. I believe me, I actually looked into that one.
The other thing I was going to say is something that I'm planning on doing in a future issue. I'm going to have one of those classic, like they meet in the tavern and they, form the new party in the tavern. And I think what I'm going to do is have some add-ons for people that want to have their characters in the comic. I don't really have any space for their D&D characters to be in the story per se, but they could definitely be background characters, in the tavern scene or something like that. Because I know everybody's got their D&D characters, they have their design. They want to see that. So that's something I'm going to be doing is drawing them into as supporting like background characters and stuff.
Yeah, that's something I've done before. Haven't done it in a while. Have like the things drawn into the comic. But
yeah, one thing that just something that I always like. It takes a little bit of work, but it could be fun. Is like, is there a way to run a campaign or at least a little bit of campaign experience across the Kickstarter campaign potentially that could also, sort of like choose your own adventurize. Like we did this one time during one of the Kickstarter events where John Lees sort of wrote a story, and then at the end of, you know, each sort of part of the story, there was a choice, and backers would vote on it, and based on what was the more popular thing that backers said, that's where the story went next. It seems like there's something that could be done where it's sort of a campaign or something that you could do across the campaign, and then that can become content that you're also sending out to your email list, which includes people that haven't yet backed yet, and letting them know, hey, if you want to, you know, help guide the story or participate or chime in or, you know, suggest a character name idea or something like that, well, jump in and join the Kickstarter. But you're still giving them like a little bit of content that goes along that is appropriate for what you're doing. Little bit more work, a little bit more involved, but could potentially be engaging. Another idea, just something that I did recently, you know, is tying in something that, like, whether it's a key date or something that's relevant to the campaign to make it a little bit more appropriate. So our last one, we launched on Valentine's Day, and so had a Valentine's Day exclusive reward and a Valentine's Day exclusive cover that was red. And and it sold pretty well. And I do think that just the tying it in helped. I will say the choice of doing custom chocolate bars, really cool. The chocolate was delicious, but some of my packages that went to Texas in the spring ended up not quite making it there. As a bar, it was more like chocolate milk, so we did have to issue a few refunds. But you know, taking swings on a cool product there. And then the other thing that I've done recently, which I think is a nice thing that could potentially get like international backers off the fence, is just having something that is a add-on that US people might pay for, but you're going to throw in automatically for all international backers, whether it's a print set or something around like $20 in value that might only cost the creator a buck or two, or a signed print or something, just some kind of upgrade that is specifically for international backers, acknowledging that they're spending an extra, you know, sometimes, you know, 20 to 50% of what US backers are to support the campaigns. Has actually earned a lot of, if not more. It's earned a lot of goodwill for us, I think. And, you know, when we did it, we had our highest percentage of international backers ever.
Okay.
I'd also say, like, reinvigorating, getting backers excited usually corresponds directly with something that you are excited about. And when it feels like you're kind of going through the motions, being robotic, just executing the checklist stuff, which will happen to all veteran Kickstarter creators, because you don't want to, you know, like, if it's not broken, you don't want to change it. But the downside of that is the creator side of us. It's like, how excited can I get for we run the magnet, you know, like, it's not going to be exciting to you. So always trying to find something that you're like keen about, or that you excited or want to bring to life. That's where, like, you know, the metal covers got me jazzed again, because it was like, oh, this is something cool and shiny, and it turns out that, you know, it had a nice spike to our campaigns. But that's where I get like super excited about.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the metal covers, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's a product that is being offered more and more, and there's more of a market for now. And so yeah, it's definitely something that offering those has helped. It's also why I like pushing the envelope with die cut covers, or just trying to be on the cutting edge of what people are doing. And so also, benefit of ComixLaunch Pro is I get to see a lot of campaigns. I get to see a lot of creators and what they're doing, and we all share ideas liberally, right? So getting curious about what is actually selling on the Kickstarter platform and what are some other things that you would like to try and offer, does add excitement, which then translates to passion to backers. Yeah. Any final thoughts or ideas for James? All right, James, what was valuable from that?
I'm guessing trying to get some kind of like event or something. Something that's going to reinvigorate them. That's not going to necessarily be a product. Sounds good.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to thank all of the creators who participated tonight. I want to thank everybody that left awesome comments and everybody that will catch this on the replay or on the podcast when we chop this up, and everyone will get their own focused episode on ComixLaunch. One thing that I always try to do when we are at the end of every mastermind session that I run is just try to take one second and ask each creators to reflect on what was one takeaway or item of aha or something that there was particularly valuable from the session. And so what I'm going to do is we'll go through for each of the creators, just ask them to share their top takeaway, and then also share where we can best follow up with them and their work. And so let's begin with Scott.
I mean, I guess the big takeaway for me is not just applying to the question that I had, but I think it came up in a couple different ways, is just to focus on, what I'm most passionate about doing, and let other people deal with the things that I don't enjoy doing. So, the most creative things for me are what I should be focusing on, and focus less on some of the more, robotic, sort of mechanical things that we have to do to produce the comics.
Great. And where can people best follow up with you?
You can find me at crimebustercomics.com. And you can also find me on YouTube, and my handle there is the Classic Comics Collector.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Jeff, your top takeaway from tonight.
My top takeaway is definitely just putting in the work and doing what I am passionate about, and just being okay with the process of growing over time, because that's the way the creative process works.
Great. And where can people follow your work?
I'm on Instagram, Lorentz Artwork. It's the best place to keep up with me. I post there the most consistently.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks for sharing on here.
Thank you.
Don, top takeaway from tonight.
I think the actionable stuff you guys gave as far as, is this playing? You guys hear me? Sorry, guys. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think as far as just the actionable stuff about backer kit launch and some of the ideas for pre-launch were really super helpful. The specific actionable stuff always hits me the hardest because I know I can go and jump into it. But yeah, that was great. Really got a lot from it, man. I'm so grateful for you, Tyler, man. You're the guru of this, dude, and have been helping me since the first launch. So as far as where you can find me, my production company website is www.motor.inc, I-N-K, or motorcontent.com also works. And on social media, I'm on @DonnieInc or @Don Handfield, and that's DONNYINK or @Don Handfield. Not really great at the social media thing, but please find me there if you're interested.
Awesome. Thanks, Don. And Chris.
Sure. So I'd say top takeaway for me tonight was focusing in the dead zone more on converting current followers to adding on some really cool limited time things, rather than focusing as much on the converting new followers. I think that's a super interesting strategy that I'm going to be testing out for the rest of my campaign's Dead Zone. And where you can find me are a couple places. My website is cbrimmage.com. On Instagram, I'm Chris Brimmage, author _ between each word. And then TikTok, the opposite of that, author Chris Brimmage.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And James, bring us home with top takeaway from tonight. Did we lose James? James looks like he's frozen. Oh, yep. Sorry, James. Well, I'm going to have to swing back and get James's top takeaway because we had a little StreamYard issue. Sorry, James, but we'll get your top takeaway and add that in post. But I want to give one last shout out to all of the great Kickstarter projects that James, you're back. Do you have?
Yeah, it looks like it. I don't know what happened there.
They froze you up on a little bit. They didn't. That top takeaway is too hot.
Apparently.
So what do you have for us?
I just think, getting the fresh ideas and putting together some actionable things for the the backers to do, and definitely survey. Getting a survey out there would be a good idea.
Absolutely.
I froze again, didn't I?
Place for people to just a sec there. Best place for people to follow up with you?
Just search up Dren Productions, drenproductions.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Dren Productions.
All right. You got it, James. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I want to give one last shout out to the projects that we've highlighted today. So be sure to go and check out Quest #1, an epic swords and sorcery action in a magical realm from Scott Harris King. Also Mandrill PI, the novels 1 and 2, which is a noir tale for cartoon lovers. That's from Chris Brimmage. Skin of My Teeth is a pulp horror comic. First Kickstarter launch for Jeff Lorentz. First of many, I am sure. Check that out. 18 days to go on that one. Also, get on the pre-launch page for Lost Boy #1 and 2, The Origin of Peter Pan, by Don Handfield with an assist from his daughter. And definitely check that out, which is coming soon. And Dungeons and Dimwits, which is a role-playing adventure comic / RPG from James Mascia and Dren Productions. While I'm at it, I would be a bad publisher if I didn't also mention that ComixTribe has a project on Kickstarter right now as well. Happy Hill numbers 1 through 5 launched yesterday. This is the latest from Joe Mulvey, who is an artist and a writer, also co-writing this with Rich Duick. That's the a return of the Wailing Blade team. Happy Hill is a supernatural vacation horror series about a little girl who goes missing at a exotic vacation resort, and all of the terrible secrets that lie underneath what otherwise should be an awesome family resort. The entire series is available now on Kickstarter, and it will be there for another 16 days. So we hope some people will check out Happy Hill and enjoy some tremendous artwork there from Joe. And I also want to just, in a send-off, remind folks that if they are digging this whole mastermind concept, they like the idea of getting on, want to get on a hot seat themselves, or just sharing their expertise with other creators on a regular basis, getting it on their schedule so that they are spending time with other creators, getting access to this knowledge, these tools, these resources, other things. That's what the ComixLaunch Mastermind is all about. You can go to comixlaunch.com/mastermind, get on our interest list. We will begin enrolling in June for July sessions that will be starting up again. And there's an info session coming up. I will tell you all about it. Get on the email list. You'll get all the details and see whether it is a good fit for you at this time. So there you have it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and masterminding with us. On behalf of Scott and Jeff and James and Chris and Don, thanks for tuning in, and we all can't wait to see what you launch next. Take care, everybody.